supposed to be here 20 minutes ago.
Who knows? Maybe she got stuck in traffic.
It is Mission.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Okay, so I fell asleep on my bed reading this boring book Christensen made us buy, and when I woke up, this baseball was sitting next to me, and I swear, I don't know if it was a dream, but I went back in time to the beginning of baseball.
No, what?
I want to try.
Where did
Oh my
she
gosh!
just happened?
I told you!
Dude, what's going on? I was totally taking a nap, and I don't know what's going on right now.
Laura just disappeared.
Yeah, she took the baseball, she's just gone.
Is the project done yet? No.
No.
You guys will not believe it. Alyssa, this ball really does bring you back in time. I saw Babe Ruth, he signed my baseball. I saw Barry Bonds. Is anyone writing this down?
Okay, no, wait. Before you write this down, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
In the late 1800s, baseball was spreading across the nation with the help of newly returned troops from war, helping to promote it as the American national pastime. In 1869, the first professional team was organized, the Cincinnati Red Stockings. They played a paid season from March 15th to October 15th, posting a perfect 65-0 record, the only perfect season in professional baseball history. On February 2, 1876, the National League was formed to replace the National Association and allowed clubs to better enforce player contracts. The deadball era was characterized by low-scoring games and lack of home runs. In 1908, teams averaged only 3.4 runs scored per game. Also, over time, a division developed between professional leagues for dominance in Major League Baseball. It was this rivalry that started the first World Series on October 1, 1903, between the National League's Pittsburgh Pirates and the American League's Boston Red Sox. Boston won, and that winter, the leagues formed the National Commission, which provides over pro baseball today. Because baseball was America's national pastime, African Americans saw integration as a symbolic gesture of true freedom and democracy in the U.S. that they were not awarded. In 1920, the Negro National League was founded by Rube Foster, but years later, when pro rosters were depleted from World War II, owners still refused to hire black players. Bud Fowler was the first black professional baseball player until Jackie Robinson, with his professional manner and success, paved the way for other African Americans to play among white players professionally. The Boston Red Sox became the last team to integrate in 1959. The post-war era can be characterized by the success of the New York Yankees as well as the increasing acceptance of minorities in baseball. The Yankees won the World Series 5 consecutive times from 1949 to 1953 under Casey Stengel, which continues to be the major league record. In 1954, the Yankees won over 100 games. For the decade, the Yankees won 6 World Series championships in 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, and 58. Apart from Jackie Robinson, baseball heroes such as Joe DiMaggio, an Italian-American, became a star playing for the Yankees and could take much of the credit for transforming the Italian image from gangsters to respectable Americans.
The Dead Ball 2 era took place in the 60s. I went to a game on July 22, 1961 at Crosley Field against the Giants and the Reds. During this time, the mound was lowered, the strike zone was reduced, and more Hall of Famers played than the 1960s in any other decade. The designated hitter era started in 1973 and is still present today in the American League only. This position allows for one person to bat in place of the pitcher, and some of the big designated hitters are David Ortiz and Victor Martinez. The free agent/arbitration era started in 1975 and is still present today. This is when the MLB made a 3-tier system. The first tier is young players were controlled by the team while in the minor leagues in their first few seasons. The second tier is players between 3 to 6 years were eligible for salary arbitration. The last tier is players with more than 6 years' experience could declare themselves free agents. The steroid era started in the late 80s and lasted until 2005. Drug testing started in 2001 in the minor leagues. Testing in the major leagues didn't start until 2003, and the MLB did not do any suspensions until 2005. There were 2 major scandals that took place, the first being the Pittsburgh drug trials, which happened in 1985. 11 players were suspended, but fines, drug testing, and community service took place of the suspensions. The Balco scandal took place in 2002. The Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative, or Balco, was a San Francisco Bay Area business supplying steroids to professional athletes. Barry Bonds was on trial for this scandal. The wild card era started in 1994 and is still present today. I went to the Pittsburgh Pirates vs. Cincinnati Reds National League wild card game. Until 1994, you had to win your division to play in the MLB playoffs. The wild card team is the team with the best winning percentage, excluding the three division winners. From 1994 until 2011, there was one wild card winner per league. From 2012 until now, there are two wild card winners per league.
Oh, my turn. I want to try. I don't want to use this boring book.
Wait, don't go without me.
This magical baseball took us on a journey through history. The first stop was meeting Alexander Cartwright in 1845. He is important to baseball because he was the first one that made rules for the sport. These rules included field shaped as a diamond, so the bases were 90 feet apart, and there were 9 players. 9 pitches, which the batter decided where he wanted the ball to be pitched. And then, there was also no professional players at this time. Following this, we stumbled into the antebellum era, where we learned about muscular Christianity. This idea thought sport and exercise was great for body, and baseball was seen as a more accepted form of leisure activity. Baseball incorporated people from all social classes, races, and ethnicities, seen as the most important sport in the antebellum era.
During this time, sports journalism was on the rise. One sports writer, Henry Chadwick, was influential in initiating changes that would modernize the game of baseball. He incorporated box scores and statistical categories like batting averages, hits, total bases, and home runs. He changed the rules so that the ball had to be caught in the air for an out, the pitchers pitched overhand rather than underhand, and there was a fixed distance between the pitcher and the batter. Shortly after these rule changes, the Civil War started. Many other sports were slowed drastically when men went off to war, but baseball gained popularity among the soldiers. The game was easy to play and didn't require much equipment. It offered a reprieve from the war, and it brought people together when they were away from home. After the war, soldiers took the game back home with them and helped spread baseball across the nation.
After the Civil War, which was in 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was built, which allowed people to travel to and from games. It then spread to the games of the baseball westward. Telegraph was invented in this time, which allowed journalists to give sports news to people living in the cities. People also began writing about sports and offered rationales and positive creeds about exercise and sport for religious reasons, nationalistic spirit, and for the sake of individual good health. Sport became more organized, rationalized, and popularized by these writings, which in turn helped promote sport equipment during this time.
Baseball continued to gain popularity through the end of the 19th century, which continued into the 1900s. During the Progressive Era, baseball allowed people to achieve social mobility because of increased salaries. World War I followed the Progressive Era. Some baseball players went in to fight the war, but most got jobs in war-related industries so they could continue to play. Baseball didn't see many changes during this time until they were accused of being unpatriotic slackers. They shortened the seasons and began to raise money to try to raise the spirits of the people. Baseball owners began to play the national anthem during the World Series games in an effort to become more patriotic and nationalistic. After the war is known as the Golden Age of sport. Baseball provided a stable influence in a rapidly changing American culture. African American and Hispanic players also began to find a place in baseball during this time. There were Negro National Leagues parallel to the major leagues, and dark-skinned Hispanic players joined because they received the same treatment as African American players.
On our next journey with the magical baseball, it led us to the Great Depression. It was not so great, and very hard to live through, but brought many changes to baseball that we still see today. People had less money for leisure activities and a major drop in attendance of games. So, to try and counterbalance this struggle, night games were developed to accommodate for the working class and people who could not afford to take the day off from work to go to a baseball game. The older population, though, had a problem with this and believed baseball should only be played during the day. Another addition was radio broadcasting. Fans who were unable to afford tickets to games were still able to experience the game by listening over the radio, which then led to an increase in interest in the teams and favorite players. This interest with specific players created the idea of the All-Star Game. Fans were allowed to vote for who they wanted on which teams, and the Chicago Tribune had a $500 prize for the person who came the closest to correctly naming the teams. Even with night games and the creation of All-Star Game, baseball wouldn't be the same without the exciting play of Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams, who brought the glamour back to baseball after the Depression.
About 10 years after the Great Depression started, the United States entered into World War II. With the creation of the draft, many Major League Baseball players had to leave their teams to fight in the war. President Roosevelt requested that Major League Baseball continue playing games throughout the war as a moral builder for the American people. Even with the rosters depleted because of the war, baseball owners still refused to hire black baseball players. While the men were away at war, women saw their opportunity to play baseball. The All-American Girls Baseball League was created by the owners of the Cubs and lasted until 1954. During the war, the all-girls team was often more popular than some of the professional teams. In 1949, Branch Rickey brought Jackie Robinson to the Brooklyn Dodgers, where he became the first African-American player in Major League Baseball. His dignified demeanor and exciting play during a time when African Americans were not welcome in society brought thousands of African American fans to Major League Baseball and helped ease the way for the minority players who came after him.
This magnificent baseball then brought us to 1951, when the first baseball game was telecasted. This brought further sports advertising and sponsorship to the Major League Baseball teams. The economy was flourishing in the 50s and 60s, and teams began relocating across the country. The rise in transcontinental airplane service helped to expand to the West. Television profit helped the expansion of Major League Baseball when another 14 teams were added in new cities around the country. Continuing into the 70s and 80s, American League teams had lower attendance than National League teams, which implemented the designated hitter, which then led to an increase in scoring. 1980s, the science of conditioning and workouts were improved. This is when they started pitch counts and specialized bullpens.
Starting in the late 80s and continuing into the 90s, relationships between the players and the owners were strained because of renegotiating of salaries and benefits. Little progress was made in the negotiating since the mini strikes in the 1985 and 92, so in August 1994, the players went on strike. The World Series was canceled for the first time since 1904, and fans became very frustrated and angered. Major League Baseball lost fans because of the strike, and many fans have not returned to baseball. Our last stop with the baseball was in the steroid era. Many players turned to steroids when the lure of more money encouraged them to play harder and at a higher level. There was much more offensive production and many batting races during this time. Amphetamines were widely used and known in baseball since the 1960s, but with no public backlash. Steroids were banned starting in 1991 when other sports began to crack down on steroid use, but no testing policy was implemented until 2003. Other professional sports implemented testing procedures, but Major League Baseball was the last sport to acknowledge the issue.
Go. That would be perfect for how America influenced baseball.
You know what? We actually got to see the Depression, and can I just tell you, I did not learn that in middle school history. I don't know what's going on, but that was
way
a lot
worse. Yeah.
That was a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. Not fun.
Let's go see how baseball affected America.
Players Protective Association. Players Protective Association is founded in 1900. It originated from the Brotherhood of Professional Baseball Players in 1885, one of the first unions created by players who objected the reserve clause. It forced players to stay with one team at owner's disposal. Players had no say as to where they were traded or sold.
Byron Bancroft Johnson created the American League in 1901, which offered higher salaries and better contract options. Players like Cy Young, John McGraw, and Nap LaJoie jumped from the National League. cracked down on dirty play, and banned liquor from ballparks. Baseball was becoming a more acceptable activity.
Immigration in baseball. Baseball was becoming a reflection of changing ethnic composition of America. Many European immigrants became club owners due to limited entrepreneurial opportunities in a less risky environment. A number of Northern and Eastern European immigrants played on teams as a means for social mobility.
William Howard Taft established the tradition of throwing out the first pitch on April 14, 1910. Players during this time were becoming increasingly frustrated with the poor conditions on and off the field. So in 1912, the Players' Fraternity was created in an attempt to negotiate better conditions, but this quickly fell apart. In 1912 was also the first players' strike. Detroit Tigers players struck over Ty Cobb's suspension after fighting with a fan. Tigers president Frank J. Navin hired scabs off the street to replace his striking players. This and numerous other problems helped to increase the sense of injustice within baseball, eventually leading to the Black Sox scandal.
World War I and baseball. Van Johnson ordered his teams to learn close order drills. John K. Tenner, president of the National League, stated, "This is a war of democracy against bureaucracy. And I tell you that baseball is the very watchword of democracy." With baseball now one of the leaders in the entertainment industry, owners felt no reason to stop playing. This decision sparked a great deal of criticism across the nation, along with a drastic decline in attendance.
End of the dead ball era. In 1920, Major League Baseball instituted a new set of rules which reduced the pitcher's arsenal and improved the hitter's chance at making solid contact. The extent to which the offense dominated the 1920s is even difficult to comprehend today. From 1921 to 1930, neither league batted under .280. This new, exciting style of play, coupled with America's economic boom, led to an increase in baseball's attendance and popularity. Nobody exhibited this shift towards positive offensive production more than Babe Ruth.
FDR. FDR realized the importance of social outlets in the midst of the Depression and emphasized baseball's continuation. In the president's mind, politics and baseball were intertwined, and both were useful in supporting society's morale and confidence. Baseball, like the New Deal, battled public apathy, resignation, defeat, and despair. During his speeches, Roosevelt compared baseball to his New Deal to instill understanding and boost the public's confidence. FDR labeled owners and players as examples of the American spirit and dedication. Historian Mark O'Coken said he, FDR, presented a vigorous image and energetically supported baseball throughout his presidential years. In 1932, Roosevelt stated, "Baseball as a sport has done as much as anything to keep up the spirits of the people when they were losing their jobs and were in the midst of the Depression."
Man, that was awesome. I can't believe we got to meet FDR, right? Ryan, where did you go?
Listen, you better be kidding right now because he was supposed to be taking all the notes. He has to be in here somewhere. You can't have lost him. I was taking a nap and you told me he was going to be doing everything. You told me he was.
All right. Last time I saw him, we were chilling with FDR in the White House. After that, I thought he was right behind me. I came back here, I started talking, and there was no one there.
Oh,
I don't know. Christensen's not going to be happy about this one.
I'm not okay with this right now. You don't understand? I'm not okay with this because we were supposed to have another person and I don't understand what's going on. We need another person! All down!
Okay, it's okay. We will find him somewhere.
I feel like he's making us